Carl, thank you for joining us today. If you could go ahead and get us started, could you please describe the feelings, the emotions, everything from when you got that first initial phone call that you were voted into the Hall of Fame?
All right. First, I gotta just say it's the neat. Hey, Bob. The neatest, like this whole thing. I mean, for the fact that Rianne is doing this. I mean, she used to come up as like a 9-year-old kid to the autograph table at these races, and like to see your face. I think that just puts it's a good example of how I feel about this whole thing. I mean, I stepped away from the sport. Obviously, I did it because I didn't think that was at that time. That's not how the best way I wanted to spend my life. I wanted to focus on my family and go do all of these things outside of the sport. But the longer I've been away, I appreciate the sport more and more. Last year, just the honor of being part of those 75 drivers, it shocked me at how much fun it was to come back to Darlington to be a part of that. And I guess what I'm trying to say is the longer I am away, the more I appreciate it. And this honor is over the top. I did not expect this in any way. I was shocked. I actually wasn't available at 4 p.m. when they announced it because I thought there's no reason to be. And it's been a huge deal to me, much bigger than I ever would have expected.
All right, we are going to open it up to questions. If you have a question, raise your virtual hand. I'll try to get to as many people as I can with the allotted time that we have with Carl. Let's go ahead and have Bob kick it off for us.
Hey, Carl, how many of the countries behind you have you been to since you retired?
Okay, yeah, so we could do a little, actually, we took a boat from here all the way across, all the way to the boot heel of Italy, which was really cool. I got to be the captain on that, which was a huge responsibility, but we've been to a bunch of countries. We traveled a ton, and that's been really amazing. You guys are in the sport every day. Everybody in the sport knows what it takes. I talked to Ricky Rudd about it last night. Both of us gave literally everything, and to step away is almost it's really a shock. And it took me a couple of years to get a balance right, and it was neat talking to Ricky. He said the same thing. But yeah, it's been great. I just feel like that the last few years have been wonderful.
And last year's inductee, Jimmy Johnson, is still racing. So do you have any chance that you will get back behind the wheel? Thank you.
No. Thank you for asking though, Bob. Not of a cup car, I don't think. I did enjoy running the sim a little bit last year, and I think I'm going to go do a little bit more of that just to try to understand. I mean, I love driving cars, and I'm very curious. I did get the chance to talk to Jimmy recently, and I mean, Jimmy's Jimmy. He's like, I mean, he's a race car driver, and he's going to be doing it forever. But yeah, for me, no plans right now.
We will kick it to Greg, and then we'll go to Jeff.
You haven't aged, man. So this living the non-racing life, dude, the sailing life, looks like it's so good to you. It's so good to see you. We miss you around the sport. And to kind of follow up on what Bob said, no, you're not going to get in a cup car again. That's great. But could we see you back at a track on a kind of a semi-regular basis in some form or fashion?
Yeah. First, it's great to see you, Greg. I had more fun than I thought I would have last year at Darlington up in the booth with Clint and Mike, and it really was enjoyable. That shocked me. I went there thinking, okay, this is a huge honor and it's something I need to go and respect the honor. And I left thinking, man, that's fun. And so I think if I were to come back in a regular capacity, what I enjoyed was being up in the booth. I enjoyed kind of calling the race to whatever degree I did there for 45 minutes or whatever. That part I enjoyed. So maybe something like that. But I don't have anything lined up right now, but definitely much more open to that than I ever have been. Like I said, I had a good time.
Part of that was I know when I was in the military and I'd be away from my kids when they were younger and they were 4, 5, 6 and 10 and those ages, it was tough. I mean, my God, those little babies now of yours are soon going to be teenagers. Is that kind of helping fuel this? Yeah, I want to get back on a semi-regular basis, maybe not in a car, but in some other capacity.
Yeah, I really, you guys are all, everybody's working on something. You know, we talked about this earlier today. Just everybody's got a project, something that's driving them forward. And for me, for 20 years of my life, it was racing. That's all I wanted to do. It's all I thought about. And I felt like, you know, all these blessings were just laid at my feet, this path. You know, the guys at the dirt track, Mike Mittler, Jack Roush, you know, Joe Gibbs, all the wonderful people. And then when I woke up one day and I said, hey, like there's some serious other things, you know, my life, the things that are laid in front of me, the things that no one else will do, you know, that's to be the best husband I can be, the best father I can be, you know, to steward, you know, all the things that have been given to me. And so that's what I've been doing the last 7 years. But you're right, Greg. If as time goes on, I mean, you know, there's a whole nother world after, you know, hopefully after successfully raising kids, and who knows? But yeah, definitely, I have a little more time and attention and bandwidth now.
Thanks, pal. It's really good seeing you. I hope to see you
Yeah.
again in the future.
Thanks. Ah, Jim Utter, what's up?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Unbelievable.
Hey, Carl. You know, you said that you weren't available because you just didn't even anticipate this and you were shocked. So why were you so surprised? Why didn't you think that this was a possibility?
I think the paradigms we live in, guys, I mean, we all have our, like, what we think of ourselves, how we see ourselves. And I can't help but to just, I see myself as someone who, I won the lottery in racing. I mean, I wanted to drive race cars more than anything in the world, and I got to do it. I felt like these things happened, you know, and then when I stepped away, I felt like, I guess looking back on it, I feel like, man, I hope the people in the sport don't think I'm being disrespectful. I hope they know how much I appreciate it. But I guess my point is, I always felt like a guy who just got to come be a part of it, that the sport gave me so much. The people in the sport gave me so much that, I don't know. I think of a Hall of Fame person as maybe someone who gave more. And so I guess that's why it shocks me. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.
We'll go to Jim Utter and then Jenna.
Hey, Carl.
Hey, Jim.
How's it going?
Dude, great.
Good to see you. Just to kind of follow up on what Jeff was asking you, like when you first came into the sport, I mean, you were trying everything to get into the sport, right? You didn't even the business cards and all that. I mean, when you look at now, do you even envision, even regardless of the way that, you know, how you left, would you ever envision that you would be like a Hall of Fame nominee, let alone an inductee?
No, not even no, not in a million years. And so, yeah, I guess, yeah, a couple things. Like I said, I cannot describe how much I wanted to drive race cars. I mean, you just said, I mean, I was passing out business cards. I was just traveling all over everywhere, you know, giving out, telling everybody what I wanted to do, getting laughed at. And then it happened. And then I got the chance to just pour myself into this thing. And I had so much fun. But yeah, I never, this is the first time that I've truly been able to look at my career. And I guess the way that the voting panel at the Hall of Fame looks at a career, and it's a different way to look at it. And the word is just grateful. I'm so grateful that all this worked out. And I hope that through this whole process, I get to share with people how much I appreciate them. I mean, all of you guys, you know, delivering the sport and the things that we were doing on the track to the fans. I was telling somebody, you know, I was walking out of Bass Pro this morning, or into Bass Pro. This guy came out, he's pumped, you know, everybody, there's so many neat things that I think this puts them all under one umbrella as a career for me.
And does a moment like this, and I think we or others have asked you this before, but does a specific moment like this make you have the what if thoughts, or are you well past that now?
I mean, there's all, like, I'm a competitor. You're always thinking about ways that you could be better or could have done better. But for me, Jim, I mean, literally, I feel like some sort of plan got laid out for me. Now I see, it's probably, definitely by God. I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, it's awesome. I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't, have one more point in that tie with Tony Stewart. I wouldn't change anything in 2016. I mean, I feel just like completely blessed. Things are great. And so no regrets. Of course, I'd like some more trophies, but I wouldn't change anything.
Thanks very much, Carl. Good to see you.
Hey, thanks, Jim.
How are you, Jenna?
Hey, Carl. I got two questions for you. The first one is, you've mentioned several times you spent 20 plus years trying to be a race car driver, and it was your whole goal and your whole life and your whole dream, and then one day you just walked away from it. What do you do to fulfill that competitive need in you, and why do you not want, you devoted all this time trying to be a race car driver, why do you not want to get in a car again and do it anymore?
Okay, thanks for asking, Jenna. I'll answer them in reverse. So the second question. So the reason I don't get into a car now and go do it is because I absolutely respect how tough it is. I know how tough it is. And so to go do it as a fun thing, I have fun personally trying to do very well at things. And so to go do it as a fun thing, I don't think I would be as good as I should be. And second, there's real risk involved. And, that's one of the things that I think, I touched on a little bit when I stepped away, but it's a serious thing. I mean, the head injuries and the potential for, long-term stuff there. I don't feel like that risk is the best thing for me now. The first question, what do I do to fill that drive? I'm a very driven person. I'm trying to just literally be the best husband, the best father I can be. And then for me, I really like a little bit of a competitive challenge. So I've been practicing jujitsu a bunch. That's been a lot of fun. done a couple competitions. They terrify me. So when I really need a challenge. What's that?
Have you won any jiu-jitsu
competitions?
Yes.
Yeah,
of
but
course.
I learned way more from the ones I've lost. But yeah, so that's really fun. And that's kind of, really helped me to stay in tune with, an outward challenge, a physical thing that's difficult with other people. And so that's been good.
And I don't know if you're aware of how the voting process goes and how the whole discussion happens, but
obviously there's drinking involved, obviously. I mean,
there was no drinking, I can promise. but someone in the room advocated very strongly for you, and they spoke very, very passionately about the 2016 finale. Mm-hmm. And it became a little bit of an issue, and because the person felt that you were wronged, you were wronged, and you left the sport right after that. And I think a lot of people have always felt that you believed also that you were wronged in 2016. And I'm wondering if all these years later, if you have anything to say about that, if the way that race ended played a role in your decision to walk away.
Thanks for asking that. Definitely, I would rather not have had a caution come out, but you never know the outcome of that. And like I said to Jim Utter, I wouldn't change a thing. I doubt. I think things would have been a lot different if we would have won that championship. And I really like how things have gone since then. So I wouldn't change it. As far as the bigger picture, though, I mean, I think what you're really asking is, was I very frustrated how NASCAR ran that event? And I can answer that by saying NASCAR is in the business of creating a sport that serves the fans. And I know from some conversations that were private that NASCAR is doing the very best they can to do that. And I respect that. The outcome for me at certain points in my career, that race is a good example. I did not like it. but I 100%, I respect the sport. I respect the people that run it. It gave me a life and opportunities that I could never have imagined. But as far as being an impetus for my stepping away, I'll go right back to what I said, not clearly enough when I did it, obviously. I just needed time. I realized I woke up and right towards the end of my career, I realized I'm not spending any time doing really anything other than racing. And that time I never get back. Two, I really felt that I had done everything I personally wanted to do in the sport. We talked about jiu-jitsu. I felt like I was a black belt at racing. I understood basically that I was the best that I could be. And third, I escaped without any big injuries. And the more we looked at that stuff, that's a serious thing. The stuff that Dale Jr. so bravely discussed, the things that NASCAR has been working on lately. I felt like I was very fortunate there. So yeah, I think that my favorite way to race is a whole season for a championship, not one last restart. That's me. I like cars to drive a certain way. Maybe other people don't, but yeah, no, like I'm 100% grateful to NASCAR. No hard feelings there.
But did you feel wronged or cheated in 2016?
I don't believe that I'd like to just say that I officially respect NASCAR running the sport they need the way they need to run it. I don't want to bring that up and say anything negative.
Okay. Thank you very much, Carl. Good to see you.
Hey, yeah, thanks a lot, John.
Just a reminder, if we could try to keep it to one question so we can get everyone in, that would be great. We'll now go to Dustin Long, and then we'll follow by Davey Siebel.
And I've got time, guys. I really appreciate this, so don't rush anybody on my behalf.
Oh.
Unless it's Jenna and she wants to talk about that restart or that caution some more, we can rush her.
Hey, thank you, Carl. Hey, I'm curious, a lot of athletes, when they leave, they still have a presence, and you were able to, walk away and kind of break that chain, and did not show up for a long time. And I'm curious, in coming back to Darlington and Kansas and some other places, some other things, what brought you back? Why did you come back? Because I know you've had all these great experiences, but obviously the way that ended, there certainly was the obvious sense of frustration, and that can be a very bitter pill that for some people I don't say get over, but they don't move past. And what brought you back to be a little bit more involved in this way?
Sure. I may have been unclear. I want to be very explicit. Like I want to say that I did not leave the sport because of the way 2016 ended, period. That's not the, is that what you were implying there?
I'm just there were a lot of things. Obviously you had a great career, but you made a break from the sport. And a lot of times we see people come back. There was a long stretch where you were kind of this Bigfoot character that you always heard about but never saw.
I had the beard. I saw the beard.
So I'm just curious what brought you back, or what brought the interest back, because you didn't have to come back. You didn't have to take a part in anything else in the sport. You didn't have to go back to Darling.
Okay. No, okay. So two parts. When I stepped away from the sport, it's very hard for me to do. Okay. There were so many, and I've learned this. This is how life works in my world. There are a lot of shiny things out there that compete for attention. What I realized, though, there are very few things, all of us on this call, there are certain things that if you don't show up, nobody else is going to do. Okay. And so for a large part of my career, I felt like I needed to show up and I needed to be in that seat driving those race cars. I felt like that's what I was supposed to be doing. Around 2015, 16, really 2016 is the first time I looked around and thought, wow, there's some other things that I really need to tend to in life. My family nobody else is going to take my role there. So to be able to step away from something as shiny and as exciting as NASCAR, right? Still to this day, when people call me and ask me to drive race cars, there's like a young man in me that says, this is the greatest thing ever. It's Christmas. They're calling me to drive a race car. If I go down that path, I'm not going to do it halfway. So for me, I had to make a very clean break, and that's just me. I know that was taken by some people as disrespect for the sport. I'm certain it was to some degree. I could have done it better. I wish that part I could do better. But the impetus for coming back was after a number of years, so many people reached out to me. They were so kind to me, and to be honored with something like that NASCAR 75th or 75 driver program. Those were such giant honors. I thought, you know what, I've got to go let people know how much I appreciate this, and so that was the impetus for coming back. That people were reaching out to me with such kindness, such grace for the way I've done things that really was special to me, and I feel like I have to respect that.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, man.
Go ahead, Davey.
Thanks, Rhiannon. Hey, Carl. Thank you for the
Hey.
time. How much do you watch and listen and pay attention to kind of the inner workings of what's going on a week-to-week basis in the sport nowadays? And if you do pay enough attention to it, is there somebody that's caught your eye and you think can, really do something, or maybe even reminds you of yourself?
Oh, man. I don't pay a ton of attention, but a couple people have really stood out to me. Dave Rogers and Denny Hamlin and all the stuff they're doing is really interesting to me, how much success they're having. I've heard some behind the scenes stuff about how hard Denny's working, how much that's paying off. And that's really neat to see a guy, I have to admit, like I'm an older guy now, so I see somebody like that doing it. It's fun to watch, at that level. Justin Marks at Trackhouse is someone who the last 5 years or so, I've get to know him a little bit better as a friend and watched how he does things. And I'd say that's the person that stands out to me in the sport that, really is just, he's moving forward. He's doing it the right way. He cares about the sport. He tries to do things right. And I'd say that's the person that, really, I'm just glad to be able to keep in touch with the most.
Thank you.
Perfect. We'll go to Claire and then Kelly.
Great. Congratulations, Carl. It's good to see you again. And,
Thanks, Claire.
a lot of people were talking about you being so young and vibrant, and that as a Hall of Famer, you can do good things for the Hall of Fame. That, when people enter, they're like, well, I want to represent well. Have you thought about what you can contribute or what kind of a Hall of Famer you'll be? And do you think being young as a Hall of Famer is something that will help you to do great things and help the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, it's so good to see you, Claire. It's
Thank you.
yeah, we had a lot of fun together after the races doing those interviews. Okay, so I told Randy Fuller, I said this when we talked about this a few days ago. This could not come at a better time for me. I think my mission here is, and I hope I'm doing it well here. You guys can help me with feedback or guide me towards doing it better. I want to express my gratitude. I want to express to people how much I appreciate the time I spent in this sport, how much much work they did for me, how kind they were to me, how much grace you all showed me, and then just the enjoyment that I got from it. And so my mission is to just make sure all of you, everybody, the fans know how much I appreciate it. And now from afar, I appreciate the entirety of it more. So if I can use this this honor and this time that I get to speak to just let people know how much how I feel like in those terms and gratitude, then that's my mission.
Good to see you again, Carl. Congratulations.
Thanks, Claire.
Yeah.
All you, Kelly.
Thanks, Rhiannon. Hey, Carl.
Thank you.
You talked earlier about the perspective you've had on the sport since you've been away the last couple of years. What about your career, and how much have you thought about your career since you left? And in a way, does this kind of officially give you closure, or kind of close the book on it now going into the Hall of Fame?
Okay, man, that's actually a good question. No, it doesn't close the book. What it does for me, and I didn't expect this at all. I mean, it opens the book. It makes me remember and realize and put into perspective what I was just trying to describe imperfectly, I'm sure. It's how much went into this, how much energy was put by all the guys that worked on cars, built the cars, sold the sponsorship, the media, the fans, everyone. And I got to be in the driver's seat. I mean, I got to be, live my greatest, wildest dreams as a kid. And so, I don't even remember what your question is now, but does it close the book? I think it really, it opens it for me to be able to just look at this and understand that it's not just something that I did and it's done. It's something that, this sport lives on, the spirit of everyone striving and trying to be the best they can and competing. And I'm so grateful to have been a part of it while I was.
Thank you.
We will go to Stephen and then Jonathan.
Carl, a part of your career I wanted to ask you about was you ran 7 full seasons in the NASCAR Busch Series, Nationwide Series, Xfinity Series, while you raced full time in Cup, and you did both in each of those seasons. I was just wondering, what do you think that added to your career? What do you think it added to your Hall of Fame resume? And did it have any effect on your longevity at all? And how was your work-life balance while you were doing all of that?
All right, great questions. I remember when Jack and I were sitting in his airplane, he kind of challenged me. He's like, "You think you can run both series full time?" And I think it was 2004. We had this discussion. I was like, "Are you kidding me? I mean, this is my dream." For the first 3 years of my career, I thought, "Man, these races are great, but they're not long enough." I mean, I love driving race cars, and so those 7 years, everybody at Roush Fenway Keselowski. What is the name of it now? Is it Roush Fenway Keselowski?
It is. It's RFK.
Okay, so everybody at Roush, then Roush Fenway, now RFK. They put so many resources into that, me being able to run full time. And so 7 years of that, I think that's something like almost 500 races. And for me at that time, it was perfect. Looking back, I probably should have focused on the Cup car more. But man, I was having fun. We won so many races. We won that championship. And as far as a work-life balance, I fought hard for that balance. I mean, I lived in Missouri, and but there was no balance. I mean, I thought about racing 24 hours a day, and that's what I wanted to be doing at that time. So as far as affecting my longevity, I don't think so. It was a very hard decision to focus on one series later in my career, but it was the right thing. And but yeah, that was a cool time.
And if there was any in Cup, a lot of people think about your first win in Atlanta, Cup, Southern 500 in 2015, Coke 600 in 2015. But is there any win in Busch or Xfinity that stands out among the ones you won?
Okay, in the Xfinity, yeah, it was Montreal with Marcus Ambrose, who I still think, Marcus Ambrose is one of the best drivers I've ever been around, period. And the day before, I had messed up our other race program that he invited me to be a part of. I wrecked a car in practice, and before the race even started. It was awful. It was just one of the dumber things I've ever done. And then I got to chase him down, and just by fluke, I got by him in the last corner and won that race against, like I said, one of the literal greatest drivers ever. And that was a very special win.
Thanks, Carl. Congratulations again.
Thanks, Stephen.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Thank you very much. Carl, Jonathan Field, the racing experts here. I got to ask you, expectations versus reality when it comes to retirement. What did you kind of think of retired life would look like, going into it versus how it actually has been?
So at first I thought, man, I've got a lot of free time. And that was interesting. And it was very odd to not be going to the racetrack. But after I felt, and I was just mentioning to someone, I got the chance to talk to Ricky Rudd last night, and we both felt the same way. It's like you hopped off of a bullet train, and things change. But now, after a number of years, I really, I'm very grateful to the time I spent in the race car and the time I spent around NASCAR, because it allows me to apply a lot of those principles and strategies for success and all these things now that, albeit are much calmer, they're just as important. So I guess the point is a little bit of an adjustment period, but now everything's running pretty smoothly, and somehow I've filled all my time, and I feel just as busy, but just on different stuff.
And when you watch races nowadays, who are some younger drivers that kind of stand out to you?
Well, I think they're all younger. But I don't know. It seems different now. It seems to me, just watch, it seems really aggressive, a lot different in the sense that the championship is determined, it's a really short championship season towards the end of the year. But yeah, I mean, no one driver in particular. The little bit I've been around, I do notice and have heard from people that, there's a lot of work involved at this point, and it's a different type of sport. I was talking to a veteran just the other day, and he was telling me, hey, it's not how you thought of it anymore. It's not that you got kind of a light workload, you show up and you just go do your thing. It's all about prep. And so I have a lot of respect for all of these guys and girls in the sport who are, coming up through the ranks, and they're practicing on the sim. They're understanding the engineering. They're really good at managing their time. And, I think it's a different sport now. It takes a different approach.
Thank you, Carl.
We will go to Trey and then Bill and then Nate.
Hey, Carl, you've mentioned that people still call you to drive a race car. I know you said you don't see yourself getting in a cup car, but how often since you've left have people tried to get you to come back, and did it ever get close?
So I've had a couple phone calls that were just, I was honored that they even called to ask. I was telling somebody earlier, there's still that young man in me that just can't wait for the phone to ring and somebody to be talking about driving a race car. None of them were actually very close. I was describing to someone, I don't know if you were on earlier, but to go drive a race car now, for me, it would mean that I wanted to be the best I could be. I want to pour my heart and soul into it. And like we just talked about, that's going to take a ton of time. There are real risks involved. And when I weigh all of that, it's like, man, that time has passed for me. That was a part of my life that I poured everything into. And now to go do it halfway or to do it for quote fun, it's going to have to be something that I really wake up one morning and say, hey, this is what I want to do, for me to go do that, even if it's a one-off race. That's what I've realized.
And then a lot of the questions on this, I even just asked you about possibly coming back. A lot of when your name has come up in recent years, a lot of it have been, oh, why did Carl really step away? Or is Carl ever going to come back? Does that ever get to you? Does that ever get frustrating that that's kind of the topic of conversation when people talk about Carl Edwards? And now do you think that this Hall of Fame induction can kind of turn the page and people can more celebrate what you've done as opposed to focusing on those two things?
Well, so I definitely felt misunderstood to begin with when I stepped away, but I think that's basically inherent, and it was so abrupt. I mean, people are going to go, "What the heck's going on here?" And then two, I didn't do a good job of explaining myself, and I think part of that was because I wasn't sure how what I was going to do. I didn't know if I wanted to come back to the sport in a year, and so I just tried to basically, politely say, this is what I need to do right now. But now looking back, I hope people can understand. For me, it's really simple. I needed time. I needed, I talked to somebody earlier. We were talking here about, what's my role in life? I need to be a good father and a good husband. And I was not able to do that personally. I realized I wasn't doing a good enough job of that. Number two, I felt like I'd accomplished all I needed to accomplish in the sport for me. And third, it's really a risky sport. And so I escaped without any lasting injuries or acute things that were, and I just felt fortunate. So that timing for me was perfect. But yeah, I definitely, it was hard to understand, and definitely I could have done a better job. And so hopefully, I run into a lot of people who it does make sense to, but hopefully through this process with the Hall of Fame, I get to answer any of those questions for people who still either don't understand or they'd like to. That would be nice.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, thank you. Carl, greetings from mid-Missouri.
All right.
I'm sure Bob Pretty would send his regards.
Yeah, how's he doing?
Yeah, he's doing well. He's retired. Still does a little stuff with us. Yeah, but Michael Jordan couldn't do it. Tom Brady couldn't do it. I know you justified all the reasons why, but was there ever a point where you were like, "Oh, I could come back and do this"?
Yeah, I was just telling somebody I have dreams about racing about every 3 nights, and I mean, I won at Las Vegas the other night. I was doing great, so I think about it all the time. But wait, your question is specifically what?
Yeah. Was there ever a point soon after you retired and stepped away where you're like, "Oh, I do have to get back in the car"? Did you have to reconvince yourself?
Yes, it's very difficult. And still to this day, I think, man, this is something I put a lot of time into. I'm good at it. The opportunities do pop up every once in a while. It's very hard for me to have the discipline to set that aside and say, no, okay, I have other things in my life that as time ticks by, I'll never get these opportunities again. So that's what I need to focus on. Yes, it is difficult. And for me in 2016, or I guess it was 2017, after the 2016 season, I stepped away and someone asked me, they said, how did you do that? I mean, and for me, it was if money wasn't an issue and I didn't care what anybody outside of my family thought, it was the right decision. Now, it was a difficult one, and I know it had an impact on a lot of people. And I'm forever grateful to Joe Gibbs, to all of our partners, because they let me go do that. So, but yeah, it's not easy, and but everybody's dealing with it. Everybody's got to make life decisions and career decisions, and I just feel fortunate that I was able to make the decision, not have it made for me.
Thank you.
Call you, Nate.
It's Nate Ryan.
Hey, Carl.
What's up?
Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thanks for going overtime here. I want to go back to what you were saying. Well, we usually only get 15, 20 minutes. You're giving us 35 so far, I think.
I have a lot of time now. I got to be honest. It's great.
You said it. Not me. So anyway, what you were saying there about how you kind of wanted to make sure people understood why you left, and what you were saying about the risks in NASCAR. And I heard in your answer to Jenna, you mentioned head injuries, which I think is the first time I kind of heard you say it like that forthrightly. Knowing that your wife was a doctor, knowing that I'm sure a lot of that was going on, there was a lot of kind of speculation back then, Carl, about I think concussions were a hot topic in 2016, 2017. How much of that played into your decision to step away?
Yeah, that was definitely a part of it, and that's the part of it that that you can't mitigate, right? So if a person's going to go participate in something that has those risks, I mean, those risks are there, period. Whether you take it seriously, whether you don't, and so yeah, for me, that was a big part of it. I mean, I felt like I was so fortunate, all the safety stuff that, the part of my career, the largest part of my career, involved Hans devices and safer barriers and all of this data. And so I felt like I was very fortunate to be a part of the sport when it was safe. But still, guys, people have had, lasting impacts from those things, and you've got to be able to weigh that. And for me, it was like, man, that's one thing that's not worth it right now for me.
Did being married to someone in the medical profession influence that decision?
Yeah, it sure helps to understand medical things when you have a doctor living with you. But no, Kate's 100% supportive of me doing whatever fulfills me the most as a person. So, definitely no pressure from her.
Gotcha. And one more from me, Carl. There's a lot of talk about what's the criteria for being a NASCAR Hall of Fame inductee. And the truth is, as voters, we are given no criteria. But one thing that we hear about a lot in the discussions in the room is it's important, or, Winston Kelly, I've heard him say this publicly, is that it's important to have inductees who represent NASCAR well, who are sort of ambassadors during that year-long process leading up to the induction ceremony. So I'm wondering, have you thought about it from that perspective? Have you talked to Winston? Is there going to be kind of a more concerted effort to have you at races, or to be a part of spreading the word of NASCAR again? Thanks.
Hey, thanks, Nate. Haven't talked to Winston about that in particular, but absolutely I'm up to that task. Like I said earlier, the more I look back on my career and all the wonderful things and wonderful people, the more I'm happy to share my love for the sport, my gratitude to everyone involved. So yeah, if I can, I'll try to do the best I can. And it's so interesting for me, the timing. This is just the time where I feel like I have a much better perspective on things. Maybe I don't, but I feel that way. And if I can share just I guess the joy that I had in the sport with people, that'd be great.
We will go to Asher and then finish with Jenna.
Thank you. Congratulations, Carl, and thanks for taking the time today.
No, thanks, Asher.
You spoke a little bit about not really expecting to receive this Hall of Fame honor. Where were you? What were you doing when you got that call? How did that sort of unfold? And did the unexpected nature of it maybe first make you think someone was messing with you?
Yeah, so it was very unexpected, and so much so that I just wasn't even, I was in the air at 4 p.m. when I was supposed to be by my phone, obviously. And but I thought about it that morning. Amber Wells from NASCAR or from the Hall of Fame, sent an email and said, just where will you be at 4 p.m. just in case. I thought about it and I thought, man, I can't build my day around that because it's not going to happen. And then I landed at about 6 p.m. and my wife said, you need to check your phone. And I called Randy Fuller and yeah, I was just blown away. So yeah, I knew Randy wouldn't mess with me like that, but yeah, just I was shocked, and I still am, at how much it means to me. I mean, a lot of you have been around me a lot. You probably know me as well as anybody in the sport, but yeah, I don't know. I wasn't expecting to feel this way. It's very humbling.
Thank you, and congratulations again.
Okay, thanks, Asher.
Go for it, Jenna.
Okay. Carl, the little bit we do see or hear about you is two things. You're either like showing up at some tornado cleanup and pulling cars out of ditches and stuff like that, or you're a potential candidate to run for office in Missouri. What's driving you right now? Like, do you want to be in politics, or do you just want to be a normal guy who's helping his community and, getting involved in these cleanup activities? Where are you in that?
Man, thanks for asking, Jenna. I think I try to ask myself that every morning, like, who am I and what am I doing? For me, what I'm starting to realize, and maybe this is silly, maybe a lot of people already understand this, but I'm trying to realize, where are the parts in life, like what's the path that's being laid out for me? What's obvious? Like where's like God knocking on the door saying, hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And then number two, am I answering that call? Am I, helping the person that needs to be helped? Am I being kind to myself the way I need to be? Am I able to serve the community, serve my family? And so, you mentioned the tornado response stuff, the Gideon rescue folks. I ran into them down in the Bahamas, and have been just blown away that there are people in the world who will risk their lives. I mean, right now, there are people somewhere crawling under a building that fell down in a tornado trying to help people. And that's what these Gideon rescue guys are doing. Those things have changed my life. They've let me understand how good people can be out there. They give me something to aspire to. As far as politics, there's no place on earth or in time where a guy can get to do what me and all of us have gotten to do, other than the United States of America. It's unbelievable. The longer I live, the more I realize that this is not the norm. We have to protect this. So when politics come up, it comes from the place, inside of me that cares so much about how great this country is, that there someday, it probably be after my kids are grown up. If I can participate in that more, I want to. And so that conversation, that opportunity and that possibility is always on the table. But I guess you asked what motivates me. It's just to try to go out and enjoy the gifts that we're given, try to do the best I can. And if I can help somebody else, that's there's nothing better than that.
Great. See you on a ballot soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jenna.
Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks again, Carl, for joining and doing this for us today. Just a reminder, if you need the link, please let us know and we'll get it to you. So thanks everyone.
You guys rock. Thanks,
Carl.
Rianne. Man, it's so
Thanks,
good to see
Carl.
all of you. Thank you.